Hi everyone, we are back again with our second IGTV video. We do have a topic this week of meal planning that we're going to be discussing with you guys. If you haven't met us already, I'm Jessica and this is Stu.
I'm Stu.
Yep. We just wanted to also reiterate that we are super grateful for everyone who has been showing us support and donating to us. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep the lights on and keep us doing everything that we have been. So thank you again. Secondly, we have another weekly challenge coming to you guys. It is going to be a 3-minute plank, but you can check all of that out on our Instagram and Facebook pages. We'll see content for that through the entire week, so don't worry about missing it because it will be there. Aside from that, for hopping into meal planning, we have Stu, who's going to give us a bit of an introduction onto what it means to meal plan and kind of go over a nutrition kind of umbrella.
Okay, cool. So when we look at intake throughout the week or intake throughout the day, the first thing you have to try to do is try to figure out, okay, how many calories am I intaking? Now, if that's not part of your goals, that's okay. We'll touch on that in a second. But once you determine your caloric expenditure, and there's ways of calculating that, but once you've looked, and there's lots of things online that you can take a look at to see like, okay, look, how many calories should I be intaking based off of my activity level, my body weight, my BMI, all these types of things. You can also reach out to us at any point in time to help you with that. But once you figured, okay, these are the calories that I want, you have two choices. Option A is look at your macros, so protein, fats, carbs, and figure out what you need to take in of those to get to the goal that you're looking for. Or option B is more of a holistic approach. Okay, so I know how many calories roughly I should be taking in, and I'd like to focus rather on the micronutrients of what I'm intaking to help with things like inflammation, like blood sugar level, like that kind of stuff to help with recovery and feeling a lot better without necessarily focusing so much on the numbers. Some people really like focusing on numbers and saying, I got my 42% protein intake that day, which is pretty high, but that's fine. And they're like, and you can get very excited about hitting these numbers every single day and be very accurate. Or if that becomes overwhelming, man, I don't really like weighing out my food all day, Stu. I don't really like tracking all day. It's a hassle. It doesn't work with my schedule. That's totally fine. Instead, we look at micronutrient coaching where it's like, okay, cool. So was everything home cooked today? Awesome. Did you have naturally sourced products in your meals? Did it fit the kind of outline that your general diet is looking for, which is, like I said, whole food or some kind of micronutrient goal type diet. So once you've decided either option A or option B, then you can start thinking about, okay, well, now I know what my meals or what my day consists of. How do I break that down? And in my opinion, one of the best ways to do that when you're looking at a macronutrient perspective is to break down meal by meal what each meal is going to consist of and then start building those ahead of time. A lot of people will look at macronutrient goals and focus more on a performance aspect. And that's really what I look at when I look at intaking food. I see carbs, proteins, fats, put them all together in the easiest way possible, intake that and perform. Do my workout, do my run, do whatever it is. And some people would like to tell me that that's maybe not the best way of doing it because I'll be missing out on the micronutrient perspective of things.
Stu does eat for sustenance. I mean, it might not always look as appetizing, but he's definitely eating for performance.
Yeah, and it's easy to do when it's all the same food all the time and every single day is the exact same. And I really like eating like that because if all my meals are the exact same, then I know exactly what I'm intaking day to day or meal to meal. And then I build into my day this like 15-20% intake right at the end of the day where I can have a cookie where there's more fat and I've accounted for the fact that I'm gonna have more fat at the end of the day. So I've taken out some of the fat from my earlier meals. Or I really, really want a steak on Friday night. I'm super pumped on that. So then I take some of the protein and the fat out from my meals in the earlier part of the day, and then it finds its way back into my day because I had that steak at the end of the day. So things like that are a really good way of building out a routine, which is something that we talked about last week, to make your meal prep work for you. Now, one of the best things that we can consider is making sure that those meals are pre-made, or not pre-made, but like you've put some thought into what's happening so that you don't find yourself running into situations later that you're looking for food or looking for snacks or looking for other things that might fill that hole, right?
Yeah, so like ideally you just want to be prepared, right? You have a plan and you're executing the plan. So at the beginning of the week or ideally a couple days before it's going to happen, you want to be thinking about, okay, what meals do I want to eat in the week? When am I going to eat them? Are they fitting into what my goals are, whether that's that macronutrient or micronutrient goals? those are kind of intertwined to a degree, but we'll touch on that later. But aside from that, you would plan your meals, shop for them, make sure everything's prepared, do it ahead of time as best you can. Batch cooking is a great technique to utilize where you can make at least 4 to 5 meals at once, and then you're eating them throughout the week. If you're able to do that and you respond well to it, that's ideal. It's less work and it's easier to plan as well. But aside from that, you not only want to plan your meals, but you want to plan your snacks, and essentially just set out the entire week prior to it actually happening. That's the best way to set yourself up for success. But success isn't always achievable when we have hiccups.
Yeah, so there are some things that can go awry when you're doing meal planning. For example, if you pick the food that's not always the tastiest, but is the most readily available, and you make a bunch of it, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't really want to eat that anymore, you run into the problem of like, hey, look, I've already made this food, but I think pizza's better, or I think a burger's better, or I think fresh food, or like whatever it is that you're looking for becomes more appealing than the actual thing that you've pre-made. So a situation like that can come up where if you are one of those people that really like variety, maybe making the exact same meal for every single meal of the day is not going to work for you.
Yeah, no, it does not work for me. Unfortunately, I create more work for myself so that I'm successful later. So I actually end up cooking at least 4 to 5 meals a week, where I'm getting, say, 2 to 3 meals out of them, because the larger batch cooking where I would get, say, closer to 5 meals out of a cooking session just does not work for me. I get tired of leftovers so quickly. I really need variety, and if I don't have that, I'm not successful, because I fall into traps where it's really easy to order pizza or Vietnamese, that sort of thing. So it's not something that works for me, and that's one of the main takeaways, is find something that works for you and then try and be successful at it. But traps like that aren't the only hiccups. I mean, we have a number of other ones happening too, which would be you go to the grocery store after planning all of this and what you need isn't on the shelf. How do you adjust for that? With technology being so readily available, it's really easy to just Google alternatives to the item that you need. You could also just choose a different recipe selection. There are a lot of great blogs out there that provide the macronutrient breakdowns to the majority of the meals. I mean, it's always good to double check those numbers and do your own weighing, that sort of thing, but it would at least give you a ballpark and maybe a new recipe to try and create, so that you're not stuck at the grocery store being like, crap, I can't make this now because what I need isn't here. But yeah, are there any other hiccups that we have found?
See, it kind of depends on how you look at food, and it kind of depends on how you look at your own routine. Like, for example, Jess was just talking about something not being available at the grocery store, and for somebody like me, I look at food like it's comprised of 3 things: protein, fats, carbs. That's how I look at all food. And then when I'm meal prepping and I'm like, man, I don't have my protein source for this, then I just sub in some other protein source, and it sometimes doesn't turn out that great, because if you've ever had like rice and like a can of tuna and some mayo mixed up, that's not so great, but it satisfies what I'm looking for: a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein, and a little bit of carbohydrates from the rice. But when I broke that down because my chicken wasn't ready, or my chicken was spoiled or something else like that, and I couldn't use it, I look for a lean source of protein, that's my can of tuna or whatever else it might be, to sub in. Or if I'm subbing things in, I'm keeping account of what they're built of, right? So if we can take a look at what the food's actually made out of, and from experience, one of the greatest things of all time is to use that little app called MyFitnessPal and just input your day. It doesn't, like, this is, even if you're not looking to like modify anything, just put it in and see what everything's made of. If you're like, wow, my day is 89% carbohydrates. I know there's some of us out there that will do that because they're delicious, and that's the best part of any type of food is the carbohydrate, sometimes the fat too, but then you're like, where did my protein go? I have no idea. I thought I was eating protein, but I wasn't. So, or if it's like, beans are great, or like legumes are a great source of protein. They're awesome. Or like quinoa. Oh my goodness, I actually really super don't like quinoa because everybody's like, it's a superfood. Get your protein, and you look and it's like, well, you'd have to have a lot of quinoa to like make a substantial amount of protein count for that specific scenario. You can use it as like a supplement to certain things to help along and make sure that you get your protein content, especially if you're avoiding meats as a primary intake source. But my point is, if you know what everything's made of, it makes it a little bit easier to sub things in, sub things out, that kind of thing.
Yes, the point isn't that quinoa is bad because we don't like it.
I just don't like it. It's just me.
I also don't like it. The texture is terrible.
So anyways, there's lots of little hiccups. And again, if you're a type of person that likes to have treats and stuff like that, build them into your day. Take some of the other things out of the rest of the meals and put them in at the end of the day, put them in at the beginning of the day, whatever it is. If you know you're gonna have a cookie, or if you know you're gonna have cake because either you got kids with birthdays coming up, you've got a partner that really likes treats and stuff like that, you know they're gonna be in the house and you're gonna eat them, just build them in. Say, well, I know I'm gonna have that. Put that in there and then build the rest of your meals around what's left in your daily macro count. If you're doing macros, if you're not, you're just going for a nutrition, like a micronutrient type approach, maybe cookies just aren't even an option anyways. Right?
Well, and even if you are going for the micronutrient approach where you're not actually counting food in terms of its composition, but more for its vitamin and mineral density, that still doesn't mean that having some sort of food diary or having a general awareness of what you're eating isn't a good idea, because from a composition standpoint, like all food does have carbs, proteins, and fats, and you can eat in a caloric excess of whole foods. That doesn't mean that it's bad for you. They're still very healthy, but you still could be eating, say, too much depending on what your goals are, whether it's performance, weight loss, just maintaining that sort of thing. So still utilizing MyFitnessPal, or even just good old pen and paper of writing down what you're eating is a great idea, just to make sure that things aren't getting a little out of control.
Mm-hmm. Also, not everybody's the same. If your intake is exactly the same as my intake, and we have different lifestyles, we've had a different training background for the last decade or longer, we have different genes, we've got a different, like if I'm a boy and you're a girl or whatever it might be, it's not gonna work out the same, right? So that kind of leads us into our next point. If you're trying things out and you are not sure why it's not working, you have people like us available for you. We do online nutrition coaching. We do online remote coaching. Jess has done a lot of holistic style planning in her history. So those are great things to reach out for. If you just got a question or two, you can feel free to do that. We also do fully supplemented plans for you, or coaching methods to help you achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve right now, which is sustainability in a time of uncertainty, right? That's really what we're trying to work through right now. We also offer, on top of that nutrition coaching, online remote coaching, where if you can have access to weights, a space to work out, or anything else like that, and need somebody to keep you accountable, keep things fresh, keep things unique, and make sure that somebody's working around the limitations that you have, so you don't have great knees, don't have great shoulders, or something else like that. It's people like us who build things so that you can do them and then continue to achieve what you're looking for, which is sustainability in a time of uncertainty, right? So what else do we do here, Jess?
We are also offering virtual bootcamp classes if something like virtual remote coaching or the nutrition coaching isn't really in your budget. We are just operating on donation base, but we've got 10 a.m. kids classes, physical education style. They're 30 minutes running Monday through Friday, coached by Stu. And then we are also doing a noon bodyweight boot camp as well, Monday through Friday, 45 minutes long, no equipment needed. Just hop in. It's a fun time.
Mm-hmm. Those classes are completely free, based off of donations, or supported by donations, and supported by our current membership. We're always trying to provide some kind of avenue of support for you guys in any way, shape, or form, and that's how we're doing it right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate your attention, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Yes. Thank you.